Sound check one. Good morning. As we have quorum present, I'd like to call the meeting of the West Harbour Development Subcommittee to order. Please remember that all electronic devices are to be switched to a non-audible function during committee meetings. We will move on to the approval of the agenda. Mover and second to approve the agenda as presented. Mayor Horvath, Councillor Kassar, indicate your vote by a show of hands unless you have a question. And that carries. Thank you. Any declarations of interest? All right, that's easy. Moving on to the approval of minutes of the previous meeting, November 26, 2024. Mover and second to adopt those minutes, please. Councillor Kassar, Councillor Crutch, thank you. Any discussion on the minutes? Seeing none, show of hands, please. That carries. Thank you. Items for information, 7.1 PD 17181I, West Harbour Redevelopment Plan Status Update. Andrea Smith, the Manager of Municipal Land Development Office, will introduce the report. Please go ahead.
Good morning, Chair and members of committee. I'm Andrea Smith, Acting Manager, Municipal Land Development Office, and here today to provide an overview of the West Harbour Redevelopment Status Update Report. I'm joined here as well with co-author Danielle Spetty, Manager, Real Estate Services. And this report has been prepared in consultation with the Corporate Real Estate, Legal, Tourism and Culture, Public Works, Indigenous Relations Division, as well as received input from the Hamilton Public Library. The focus of the report is to provide an update about the West Harbour capital projects and initiatives that have happened over the past year, as well as Pier 8 development specifically. First, with respect to the capital projects and initiatives, Council has approved approximately $105 million of the original $140 million capital plan, which has funded a completion of several major projects to date, from the new shore wall, breakwater, boat slips, pumping station, public art installations, Cops Pier Park, and boardwalks that, taken all together, have significantly transformed our waterfront and increased publicly accessible spaces. Regarding waterfront animation and programming, the city's placemaking and animation team have been organizing free programming at Cops Pier Park and the Discovery Centre since 2021, and now have expanded that program to Pier 6 and 7 upon the completion of the James Street Plaza. The goal is to provide a variety of activities co-created with partners and the community to draw both visitors and residents to the waterfront. Some highlights include, on June the 21st, approximately 200 people attended the Indigenous Peoples Day celebration at James Street Plaza. On September the 30th, National Day of Truth and Reconciliation took place at James Street Plaza, where approximately 150 people participated in the sunrise ceremony and about 350 people in the afternoon event. Over the summer, the Hamilton Public Library ran a bookmobile program at the Discovery Centre each Saturday afternoon, drawing approximately 300 people to the program. As well, during July, the library held a live music at Pier 8 series, drawing approximately 1,000 people to the Gantry Crane at Cops Pier for various performances. And we have a new activation program where staff have issued a request for a proposal for qualified businesses or not-for-profit organization to coordinate a series of outdoor public events at the waterfront for 2025 with the option to renew for 2 more years. And that contract was awarded to Sonic Onion to deliver 10 free arts-focused events at the waterfront in 2025, and just actually wrapped up the Halloween on Harbour 5-day event series. Other programming included the Touch a Truck event in May, drawing approximately 2,000 attendees to get up close looking at vehicles and equipment as part of Public Works Week. Lashai Peel at the city's Poet and Place selected as Pier 8 as the location for her placemaking project, featuring the temporary installation of her site-specific poem on a billboard on the Discovery Centre with an accompanying video. And as these waterfront spaces are being used more frequently for community events, staff are working on resources to help event organizers, such as making maps, better defining the bookable spaces at the waterfront, and adding information to the city's website. With respect to capital projects, Macassa Bay Renewal Shoreline Naturalization and Area Enhancement Project, this past year the project team collaborated with members of the urban Indigenous community to develop a vision for Macassa Bay area, the project mission, as well as core values to inform and design the project process. The next steps are to take that and build that in foundationally into the RFP to obtain consulting services to advance both the conceptual design, the detailed design, and the construction components of that process, and continuing the collaboration with members of the Indigenous community throughout that process. With respect to Pier 6, the new public buildings and design competition, the West Harbour Recreation Master Plan identified 2 buildings within Pier 6 and 7 that would serve as an indoor programmatic area to complement the outdoor spaces. Staff are exploring programming concepts that would best suit these 2 new buildings that are to replace the compromised structures that were previously there. Having a high-level concept in place will be informative to the design competition process to ensure that these buildings are showcases of design excellence and sustainability at the waterfront. Tourism and Culture Division have emerged as a project champion due to its proximity to the creative economy and ongoing activations of the waterfront. Pier 6 and 7 public space and commercial village construction. This space is now fully complete and open for public use as of spring this past year. Pier 6 pedestrian bridge, the Gateway Park, and temporary parking improvements. I'll just speak to those briefly. The planned movable bridge near the Royal Hamilton Yacht Club, Gateway Park, which is near the boat slips on Pier 8, and the parking lot improvements on Pier 8 to the existing lots are all within are now in the tendering stage. Following the completion of the improvements to the parking lots, staff will conduct further engagement with Waterfront Shores as part of developing and implementing the paid parking program. And now regarding the Discovery Centre building, you'll recall in 2023, Council approved the Hamilton Public Library as the city's partner to develop a proposed concept for the redesign and reuse of the Discovery Centre building. HPL, in collaboration with the Indigenous Relations Division, have prepared a project update, and it's an appendix to the staff report. It provides a full status update, and have joined virtually should committee have any questions. But I will note that a key project achievement is that Lord Cultural Resources was recently chosen to lead the Discovery Centre program design and development study, and they will work closely with the project team, the Indigenous community, local partners, and members of the public to gather input to inform the design and program for the site. And further updates will be provided as that project progresses. With respect to West Harbour governance, this summer, an extended SLT meeting was held with senior staff from divisions across the corporation to review and celebrate past achievements, as well as to turn focus on work ahead. Further discussion with SLT is occurring to continue discussion about priorities and establish a governance structure to support project decision-making as we move forward. Turning now to Pier 8 Development Agreement. In our last report to committee, staff provided an update about the Pier 8 Development Agreement, or DA, sometimes it's referred to, between the city and the city's partner, Waterfront Shores Corporation, for the 9 development blocks. And in that report, staff recapped the framework of the agreement that balances the interests of the city as a landowner and developer, and Waterfront Shores as the builder. And that agreement itself is foundationally a land transaction agreement of purchase and sale, financially benefiting both parties. That report also outlined how the overall slowdown in new housing was impacting Pier 8, such that it was not feasible to move forward with development of blocks 3 and 6, which is the first phase of the development. The development agreement includes an 18-month window to allow for some fluctuation in the market, enabling the builder to time when they proceed towards sales. However, we've now arrived at the upper limit of that period, and the market remains at an exceptional low. So due to these circumstances, there are provisions within the development agreement that Waterfront Shores has invoked that enabled contemplation of change to the schedule, subject to the city's consent. Given the valued relationship with Waterfront Shores and using current delegated authorities and provisions of the development agreement, staff have consented to a pause of the development schedule. City staff supported permitting a longer pause, enabling ongoing monitoring of market factors and for due diligence to continue. Pivoting to other solutions while these significant market factors are at play was not viewed as a prudent approach. Both parties will continue to actively monitor market conditions and work together to identify opportunities to improve viability. As soon as the market conditions improve and the builder threshold profit can be achieved, Waterfront Shores will be required to submit a revised development schedule, which will restart the implementation of the agreement. And this has been a challenging period, and we appreciate Waterfront Shores' continued commitment to the Pier 8 development. Thank you. That's my overview, and happy to take any questions.
Thank you, Manager. So first, I'll take a mover and second to put the report on the floor. Councillor Kassar, Mayor, thank you. And we'll open it up for questions. Councillor Crutch, please go ahead.
Thanks very much for the update report. I have some questions about some of the timelines here in terms of when you think we can expect things to happen. So specific to the timelines for Pier 8, you're saying there's phase timing, blocks 3 and 6 have expired, but there's, of course, those are just 2 of several blocks of development, and you're pausing the timing indefinitely. Do you have a sense of when you're revisiting that timing? I mean, you said you're going to continue to monitor to see when it becomes profitable for the developer to continue the project, but do you have a sense of how often you're going to be meeting, how you're going to be assessing that? Because an indefinite pause certainly creates some tension in that system.
To the chair, to Councillor Crutch, thank you for the question. The pause has been conditioned with certain requirements to continue collaboration with Waterfront Shores. So for example, we would be meeting at least twice a year with Waterfront Shores and asking them to provide their pro forma on an annual basis. I think that is, and then so working in partnership with them to find ways to move or action this forward.
Okay, thanks. I mean, I understand why specifically you're looking to keep the same group committed to this development. I assume it's for the same reasons that we're trying to keep the same group committed to the Jamesville development, because if we didn't have this group doing it, then it would mean starting from scratch, possibly doing RFP. Is that a general good understanding of the process?
Correct. To do something different than what we are doing now would be a significant departure from the development agreement. There are contractual considerations in that process, and to consider another disposition process is also quite lengthy. It would take some time to do that, and it's not something that staff had recommended exploring at this time. Really, the approach that has been taken here is to just provide a bit of a release valve and allow the market to stabilize somewhat, and then come forward once we have a better picture of what it looks like with an actual solution.
Thanks. I have some comments about this, but I had a couple other questions first. Pier 6 buildings. And so I had a meeting with John Summers and some others a little while back about these buildings. And one of the things I'd said at the time was what we're missing at the waterfront is excellence in public washroom facilities, is certain kinds of spaces, animated spaces. So I'm kind of interested to understand the timelines there. So when you think we're going to be getting to the point, like how long this process is going to take for design, for RFP, for RFQ, like how long do you think that will take for us to get to the point where we might have a clear sense of what that's going to look like, how tall it will be, you know, massing, the kinds of amenities that are going to be there? Do you have a sense of the timeline there?
Through the chair, to Councillor Crutch, thank you for the question about that specific project. Initially, that project was scoped to be a design competition. However, as we started exploring the parameters of that design competition, it became increasingly important to recognize, at least at a high level, what the programming plan would be, because there's a relationship between design, like the function and form. And in collaboration with the Tourism and Culture Group, they have come forward as the project champion to define at the highest level what that programming plan would be. I don't have today a specific timing, other than it has changed from what we initially thought in terms of scope. And we are working through some staffing capacity to assign resources to that project. I expect at a future update I'd be able to provide you more timing information about that project. But it is an exciting project where we would be looking to bring an indoor programming building as an anchor from all within the outdoor spaces at the waterfront there.
Okay, 2 more questions for me. Macassa Bay timelines, just same question. I know we're trying to do some reanimation there and deal with shoreline things. Do you have a sense of how long that process is going to take, and if there's going to be another phase there? So there's a fair bit of space in that area, and so there could be chance for Indigenous folks to build structures of some kind. for ceremony, other kinds of things. So what is the first plan? The first phase, of course, is doing this work, right? So before we can get to that next phase, which I think is giving space to Indigenous communities by the waterfront, we have to get through phase number 1. So what is the timeline overall look on that? Because I think you're relatively farther along there, understanding what's happening, but give me a sense of when, like 2027, 2028, when do we think we're going to actually have that completed, that portion?
Thank you for that question. I think that the first phase has been really a relationship building phase, and I think we've done great work this year to identify what the program vision is. We have it actually articulated and carefully worded what the vision is and the core values of the project, because in this case, this project is as much about the journey of the project as in delivering the project. And we will treat it as such moving forward. In terms of timeline, I think different than sort of, I would say, true design construction projects, because it is so relationship focused, I hesitate to give you a particular time frame. Practically, there are also some staffing capacity issues with moving forward a pretty complicated RFP. We do need landscape architecture services to assist with us. We do have a project plan. We just need to take now the foundational elements we've done through consultation, build them right into the RFP, because then once we go out and do the call to the market, then the proponents will be able to see what is important to the community right from the get-go. And then, of course, the consultants, we would have further consultation as part of the process. I do think it's still a few years away before it would be complete and operational. We still have a lengthy RFP process, and then the conceptual design, detailed design, and construction.
Thanks. I have a motion coming forward, and I'll be at it for a second time. If there's other speakers, I'm happy to wait for them to speak.
Do you have just your motion to introduce? Okay, well, I know the mayor's on. We'll go to the mayor and then we'll come back. Mayor, go ahead.
Thanks very much. I really appreciate the update. I just have a couple of questions, and somewhere in a similar vein, but maybe from a different angle, as the previous questions that were just asked. And I guess the first one, might as well start at the same place, is the Pier 8 developments piece. And I guess my question is, because of the market forces that exist right now that have created this kind of terrible soup, really, of opportunity for pretty much any housing development here and in many other places in our province and in our nation. And what's the likelihood of seeing any kind of, if we were to kind of pivot to a different type of vision, maybe, whatever, what's the likelihood of any of those forces changing that would have any material impact on timelines in terms of getting things done here?
Through the chair, Danielle Spady, Manager Real Estate Services. We have continued to do some feasibility analysis on a number of different development types at this location and others. And it doesn't appear, given the current market conditions, that any alternative form would be viable at this particular point. That could change quite quickly if the market does change, but other forms of tenure would also face similar challenges.
Thanks. I appreciate that. And so then I guess the other kind of question that's not dissimilar is that this relationship has been ongoing for some time with this group, and definitely there have been some kind of unforeseen changes that have altered the path forward that we were all hoping for and expecting, but that's not due to any transigence of the group. And anything that we might want to contemplate is really our obligation. My understanding is through the agreements that we have, et cetera, to have those discussions with the group. I mean, we all want to see something go forward. We have an existing relationship that's contractual. And so as we look to where we are now and where we might want to go, is it appropriate then to continue to have that dialogue with that group? I would suggest that it is, because they have an interest and they've invested significantly as well. And there's a kind of a partnership there that, that we really, I think, have to respect. They've been on this journey with us for a little while. Can I just get a sense of, am I seeing, like, is that kind of a way to kind of frame what our path forward might be at this point in time, considering all of the changes that none of us have any ability to really impact or affect?
So Ray Kessler, Chief Corporate Real Estate Officer. It's a really good, it's a challenging proposition, I think, in front of us, as you've clearly articulated, not just us, but, you know, this is a Canada-wide problem that all levels of government are, as I think we're all acquainted with, are trying to address in some form or fashion. I think what is important to understand is we have a development partner that is continues to be committed to the project. And so they're not abandoning. I know you certainly can read the headlines throughout, at least in Ontario, where there are lots of what I'd call higher density type projects that are being abandoned by developers. That's not happening here. And we've certainly been given, you know, commitments by the developer that they have a keen interest in continuing on with this project. They continue to do a lot of work behind the scenes. They're already heavily invested in this project and continue to spend money on due diligence and looking at ways that they can create a viable product that they can bring to market. And I think they're maybe even more motivated than we are, quite frankly, given their current investment into this project. And so in that context, you know, we're having ongoing dialogue. I know, you know, earlier it was described that, you know, there's some minimum obligations for them to come and talk to us and report to us around that due diligence. We meet and discuss more frequent than that. We just established sort of a minimum baseline, and we'll continue to do that. You know, our intention is to work with them very closely to try and figure out, well, what works and what doesn't work. And, you know, if there's alternative ways of approaching this, then certainly we would bring that back here to have those conversations. We're all just trying to work through this and see what can happen. Unfortunately, that doesn't lend itself well to, hey, we've been doing this for some time. We were expecting to see some product on the street much sooner than we have, but that's the nature of where we are right now. I think there's maybe, you know, from our view and you know, being on the street from a real estate perspective, I think there's a slight bit of optimism that is beginning to grow. But again, there's some sense that we may be, although, you know, different pundits will have different opinions around where we are, and various economists weigh in differently. But certainly from a broad market perspective, there is some thought that particularly in this kind of residential development marketplace, that we may have bottomed out in terms of the where the industry is at right now, and hopefully, you know, there begins to be you know, shafts of light that begin to bring greater light on the timing of what can be brought forward. But right now, it's very challenging.
Thanks very much. I really appreciate that. And I guess, I mean, it's fair to say that should any of this kind of, there be a significant kind of impact in any way to this situation, good or bad, then it's the staff's responsibility then to come and make sure that we all know about that. But in the meantime, you're kind of doing the work that you need to do to stay on top of the best interests of the city and the viability of the vision that has been, in place for some time now. I appreciate that. Thanks. I have a question about, and you can stop me, Chair, if you think it's time for me to hand over the question part to someone else. But I wanted to ask the question about the pedestrian bridge. Because I mean, unfortunately, I can remember the day when the big idea was to actually bring people to the water's edge. And so this is one kind of missing piece in that vision, if you will. And so what it says in here is that that there's existing infrastructure that already exists to kind of facilitate that bridge. Let's see. Infrastructure to support the installation of the bridge has already been completed through work of the previous kind of overseers of the space. So my only question is this, is as we go out, I guess we go out for tender on this. And I'm just asking because I'm completely curious. Is this kind of infrastructure and this kind of, apologize, I've never seen a retractable bridge, actually. I don't even know what that looks like, but that's what this is, right? A retractable bridge. So is that something that's common? I mean, are there lots of people are lots of firms or construction kind of companies that would be able to bid on this kind of a thing? And because it sounds very kind of interesting to me.
Through your chair, Ed English, Manager of Construction. It is a retractable bridge. We have 3 different designs that we're looking at right now. The original design was very complicated. We've seen it somewhere else. It was, I believe that Werner Plessel, the former Hamilton Waterfront Trust employee, saw this in London. And with a bit of research over the last little while, London, England, sorry, it doesn't really move. It's not really retractable. So people come to the bridge, they walk across it, or they go around it. So we want one that's going to be usable, perhaps not as much maintenance. So we're looking at a couple of different designs other than the fully retractable, which was kind of like a clamshell going out. You may have seen some of the drawings or renderings of that. We're looking at perhaps a 2-way retractable bridge, which will fold in half and come back, or completely lift so that the smaller sailboats can pass out of the marina basin, the inner marina basin. So yeah, 2 of them in the city, yes.
Yeah, that's great. I was just very, very curious about all of that. So thank you for that. The only other question I have is on the kind of the plans for the rectangular park, right? At Discovery Drive. Do you know what I can't find the page that I was writing this on, but and the question is about the have you got the design and everything of that park done?
Through you, Chair. Yes, the design is done.
Sorry, Chair. Can I see it at some point?
Oh,
Have I seen it? Has
absolutely.
it come here? I don't think I've seen it.
I'm not sure if it's come past, but we do have a design for it, so I can definitely send over some PDFs of it.
I appreciate it, and I'm just going to tell you, like off the top of my head, why I'm asking, and that is because I see a lot of concrete down there. I'm just saying, we see it at Bay Street. We see it at where the beautiful Indigenous artwork is. That whole plaza is concrete. I just worry that when we talk about greening and permeable surfaces, we talk about all those things, and we just lay a lot of concrete. And I get it, it's durable, it's long lasting, and all of those things. And I'm just curious to see what you guys have in mind for that space, and hopefully it's not a lot of concrete, but a lot of access to, things that people can enjoy the space with. So appreciate that. I probably have more, but I'll take those things offline. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Mayor. Councillor Kassar.
Thanks, Chair, and thank you very much for the update and the questions. It's been helpful to kind of frame where we are. I have a question about Pier 8 development with respect to what's on page 7 in the first paragraph of that section, just prompted by some of the questions that have been asked and contractual obligations. And what it says in here is that the upper limit of the extensions is 18 months, which has been addressed, and that there was staff delegated authority to be able to determine to extend, make a decision to extend that. But it also says here that the city has the right to terminate the agreement with respect to blocks 3 and 6 if, or at the end of those extensions amounting to 18 months. So I just want to understand in more detail if you can explain what the city's ability there is. There's been a decision point. Have we passed that decision point? Because I know there is conversations here, viable or not, of looking at potential opportunities. So if that's clear through you, Chair, if we could have an answer to that.
Just before we get an answer, I don't know who's going to take the question, but I would just caution if we get into contractual discussions and information, I want to ensure that that is information that can be shared in public. If the information the councillor is looking for is information that shouldn't be shared in public, we can explain to the clerks what we're looking for and go into camera. I just want to ensure whatever you're going to share is for public consumption only. Thank you.
Through the chair to Councillor Kassar, if I can just take a moment to confer with my colleague and then, thank you. I think that at a high level, to answer the question in open session, is that where we have arrived to at the end of the 18 months, what we have chosen is a pause. There's action that the city can take. The city's action has been to insert a pause, as we previously described. I think that's also to Mayor's questions about the space that we've provided is not to just go dormant and wait. It is to insert a pause so that we can work with our partner and figure out a path forward.
Okay, thank you for that. I don't think we need to go into close for decision or a discussion on it, but just one quick follow-up then. So, and I don't think this would need to go into close, but does that option still exist to the city? And, you know, just a yes or no, if there was a decision to go some alternate route.
In the future, yes, that would still remain an option.
Thank you. Mayor, if you mind taking the chair, I just have a couple of questions and then I'll go to Councillor Crutch for a second time. Thank you. And again, I don't, similar to Councillor Kassar, if there are questions that can't be answered in open, just please advise. We're talking about this deadline that we've reached and it's however months and we've decided to put a pause in. Do you know when the deadline on blocks 3 and 6 actually, like what's the date? Like how long has it been that we've been sitting as a pause? Has it been a year? Like how long have we been sitting in a pause? Through you, Chair.
Through the chair to Councillor Spadafora, it's been a matter of days. It arrived, I think technically October the 30th.
So blocks 3 and 6, the deadline expiration date was October 30th of this year?
The key milestone date, right, correct, was October the 30th. Okay,
thank you. My other question, just from a clarity standpoint, is when you talk about putting a pause on 3 and 6, just for clarity, the other remaining 7 blocks, I believe there are, they have nothing to do with this report and comments on blocks 3 and 6.
Correct. The remaining development blocks remain as described contractually in the agreement. Really what is before us is the first phase, which is blocks 3 and 6.
Okay. I'm not going to talk about that. We got to go on camera. I'm good from now. I'll take the chair back. Thank you. Councillor Crutch, go ahead second time.
Thanks. So I had a question about the animation that's happening at Pier 8. I think you spoke to Sonic Onion getting the contract and running 10 events. In the past, if I recall correctly, it was a little bit different, right? So we had not had the same arrangement and RFP process that we'd had in the past. I guess I'm looking for some input and from some discussion about the success of what we've done differently, because I'll just anecdotally say from the community, I've heard some feedback that, hey, the other process was a little more flexible. There were an ability to have more people participating in terms of companies or groups that were animating the waterfront space. Now we've kind of locked it down to one group doing that work. There's pros and cons to that, obviously, from predictability and funding, all those kinds of things, but in terms of diversity, not as much. So I wondered if you could speak to that, Peter. Thanks.
Through the chair to answer Councillor Crutch, Peter Fortune, Manager of Placemaking and Public Art. So in discussions with the procurement department, it was agreed that the initial program that went forward was a single source. So to ensure this is a fair and open, transparent process, it has been turned into an RFP, and that was won by Sonic Onion recently. And Sonic Onion will be hiring many other smaller groups to work with them collaboratively. So to get the program started, it was single source to a provider that we knew that could do it, and then it was turned into an open, fair process that way. And we are not only working with Sonic Onion currently, there are other groups still working down there. For example, we have partnered with, as detailed in the report, the Indigenous Relations Division and the Hamilton Public Library as well. And then we'll also be looking at other opportunities when they arise down there. Thank you.
Thanks. That's the clarity I was looking for, because I didn't quite understand what the exact relationships were. And it's good to know that a lot of small groups are still being worked with. And if there is more expansion there, maybe putting out multiple RFPs might be a thing we can do for different spaces. But so far, I've had a lot of positive feedback from people about animating the waterfront. So it's been really excellent. I just appreciate that clarity. Thank you. My last point is just to put the motion forward that I'd submit in advance, and if it's okay, if the legislative coordinator wouldn't mind putting it on the screen so we can all see it.
So just before we do that, Councillor, we're going to receive the report.
Oh, I forgot about that.
Then we will go to your motion, and then we'll go from there. So I think I have a mover and a second already on the report.
Yes, you do.
Perfect. So show of hands to receive the report. And that carries. Thank you. Councillor Crutch, please introduce your motion, your seconder, and Elsie Bates, if you could put it on the screen, please.
I'll just wait for it to come on the screen. My seconder is Councillor Kassar. And so I won't read it out, but I will say that it does address, I think, some of the concerns here. The idea is to work with Waterfront Shores Corporation to have these discussions, not to do that. And so the idea is to come back with something in Q2 2026. I talked to staff just before the meeting and they asked if we could change it from Q1 to Q2. It's fine. Just to get an update about what else is possible here. I'll speak to it briefly. I mean, the options we're considering are largely for-profit options. And so I think right now, if I have it correct, 5% is the affordable housing makeup for the current project. And so it's 95% profit. And of course, if people are looking to generate profit in a time where it's difficult to do so, the project's not going to move forward. My perspective is this is a piece of public land that could sit there indefinitely for some time. It's already been sitting there for years and years like this. The goal is to get to a project that animates our waterfront. If for the next 5 years, who knows, this is still not viable from a profit perspective, then we're going to be sitting on this land waiting for something to happen. And so maybe there's another mix here that will work. Maybe bringing in an affordable housing provider to do blocks 3 and 6 makes sense. Maybe there's some other kind of not-for-profit group that could do this. I was just at the Urban Design and Architecture Awards last night, and I can tell you that despite the fact that there's a market turn, that's not really great for-profit developers. Affordable housing providers are still building stuff and building stuff excellently. City Housing Hamilton won 5 awards last night for their work in the last year for excellence in design. And I don't want to preclude that from being a possibility if we keep finding ourselves in a situation where we're not able to make the for-profit development work. The luxury condo market doesn't exist. And that's what the 45-story tower is all about. And so I think it makes sense for us to come back and look at this, at least and get a report back from staff about what the other options are. Ultimately, if we decide it doesn't make sense or the timing doesn't make sense, then sure, we don't do anything else. But if we have the option to look at other things, I think we have to have a report back from staff to tell us what those options are to do the analysis. I appreciate Danielle's comment earlier about, we looked at the viability of some for-profit projects and whatnot, but I think a deeper analysis is required. We're talking about a massive project in our city, something everyone's watching, and I think that due diligence is necessary. So that's why I'm putting this motion forward to ask for staff to come back and look at what other possibilities exist if this project continues to not be viable. Thanks.
Thank you, Councillor. That's seconded by Councillor Cassar. I have some questions, but I will wait for Councillor Mayor. Go ahead.
Thanks very much. Through you, Chair. I'm a bit confused. I don't think the tower is on. Is the tower on blocks 3 and 6? Okay, so this has nothing to do with the tower. This is just blocks 3 and 6. Okay, so I'm a bit, excuse me, that's what you just said, right? So what your motion is about the entire vision for the, just sorry, through you, Chair, just to get clarity from the mover. So the motion is all of it. Like to kind of rethink the whole plan down there. Is that what you're asking for?
Councillor?
The motion is for staff to look at the Pier 8 blocks to determine what other possibilities exist for this project. It's not, I understand we have it, it's phased. That's a phasing is going on right now. But the phasing is linked to the next, like we're already kind of in the next phase, basically. If we hadn't said no to this phase, we'd be starting to look at the next phase. So these things are all interconnected. So I didn't think it made sense to limit it to a specific phase.
Okay, so that helps. Thank you, Chair, that helps. I guess my question would be, and I think it's to staff through you, is does anything that we're doing right now with this particular proponent preclude the staff from having these kinds of conversations about the future of the space down there? Like, I get it, and I don't disagree that there's opportunity, but we've also got a lot of new programs, and the federal government's bringing new programs, and the provincial government's bringing new programs, and we're, as much as possible, stacking some of those new programs that might not have even been conceived by this particular partner at the time when the initial plan was kind of undertaken. And is there anything really that precludes those conversations from happening already in terms of potential for going forward with the development? And I'm going to tell you why I'm a little bit concerned, and I think it's important to do that, because that might help with how the response comes. But I just, it takes us a long time to kind of move forward on these pieces because they're big and they're visionary. And when you kind of change tracks midway through, then you're kind of changing tracks midway through. If you can take the track you're on and adapt it to changing circumstances without completely going on a different track, I think the likelihood of actually getting to a finish line is a lot better. Now, that's my personal bias, but I guess the question remains, are staff prevented from having these kinds of conversations already and having the discussions about opportunities that have changed? And when I think about, and this is just an example, the Jamesville site and the way those partnerships are working, it's the private development side that's going to help fund some of the nonprofit housing side and some of the social services pieces. It's going to help kind of with the viability of that mixed use site for all of the partners that are involved there. And so, unless I'm completely misunderstanding that model, but I guess my question remains to staff through you, Chair. I apologize. Is there anything that precludes those conversations from happening already at the staff side operationally, which is kind of your job?
Go ahead.
So through the chair, certainly there are things that provide what I might say guide rails. We have existing land use vision and land use framework, whether it's the OP or secondary plan and zoning. We also have contractual obligations that, we spent a lot of time putting into place, which also reflect and support the vision that we created down there. So those are some of the guide rails that we need to work within. Having said that, the landscape is actually rapidly changing landscape. As we see the federal government continuously adapting, I'll use the word adapting, their response to the housing crisis now with the creation of a new corporation and some shifting of resources and actually looking at different models of how that gets deployed. I think I think it's worthwhile and we have the flexibility to introduce those types of things into the conversation that we have related to the guardrails that I just articulated. And that includes working with waterfront shores, right? And so really, this doesn't direct us to do something that we can't do. And we already are thinking about these things. So it's not necessarily, there's nothing in the motion that pushes us offside with current obligations. In some respect, this is a bit of a reflection of what we are already giving some thought and consideration to. And so it gives some clear articulation to staff in terms of how to move in that direction. And that's, we're certainly capable of doing that. My only concern, of course, is with regards to how quickly you want those kinds of report backs, because some of this stuff takes a little bit of time, and we'll try and achieve those kinds of timeframes. Recognizing it is a bit of a complex situation, and even with regards to some of the federal programs and how they may or may not work, those are still under dialogue as well. So if there are opportunities to bring some of that to bear within the guide rails that I articulated, certainly we'll be in front of this committee and council as to how we may be able to make some of that work in a way that is compatible with the overall framework.
Can I just,
Yeah, go ahead.
just raises another question then around the expectation and timelines, et cetera, which apparently it sounds like it's quite ambitious because there are so many moving parts right now. I guess, so if I could get a better clarity on then what the possible timeline for information would be, and also whether there's any sense that this kind of direction would be seen as problematic in terms of the obligations that we have contractually with the current partner.
So through the chair, when I look at the motion, it's asking us to do an assessment. It's not asking us to take action. And so in that context, we're certainly not going to trip over contractual obligations. And when we report back, I suspect there will be some, in-camera conversations around some of the contractual obligations and what the implications might be. But we're certainly not taking action here. At least that's not what I'm looking at. What I'm looking at here is to continue the dialogue with Waterfront Shores around how we might be able to, quite frankly, move things forward within existing frameworks. And if there is some need to go outside of those frameworks, then we'd be coming back and advising council as to what that looks like and what the implications are and what sort of direction we may be able to take or limitations to that direction.
I appreciate that, and I would just ask the mover to kind of think about the requirement in terms of report back timelines. Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor. Councillor Crutch, you really didn't speak for a first time. That was introducing your motion. So if you'd like to speak for a first time, go ahead, and then we'll go to Councillor Kassar. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks for the clarification. A few things to point out. So originally I had Q1 there, and then staff said, could we do Q2? So I changed it to Q2. If staff really want it to be in Q3, if that's very important, then it can be Q3. But I'm trying to be sensitive to that issue. I changed it when I was asked to, so that answers that question. I think the questions that were answered helped with some of the motion here, but a couple things it says is staff are already having these conversations and some of these conversations are ongoing, which is good. I just want to get a report back here about that. So right now, we don't have a lot of the detail and I want to know what the detail is and what are the financial considerations and what other issues are happening in a formal report so we can look at that information, understand it better. This is actually also based on the current development agreement. So I'll make that clear. This is not asking us to create a new development agreement. It's based on the current development agreement. And staff helped write the language. I put together something kind of quickly and staff came back with a bunch of suggested changes and these are those changes. And last, I think importantly in B, it says, and without limitation. So no one is being limited here to the kinds of things they're looking at. No one's being directed to do something that would just have only alternate tenures looked at, but just kind of specific alternate tenures, but looking at the project overall and saying, you know, the pro forma that exists today or exists when it was approved, does that still going to make sense? Is there some way to modify and alter that and come back to the committee so we can have a look at that information and understand it better? And like you said, Ray, then if there's things that come out of that discussion with Waterfront Shores Corporation, you bring those back here and talk about the implications of them. I just think that we're in a position where the market has shifted dramatically since this was first approved. And coming back here to this committee with exploration of where the project's at, since again, this is city-owned land, this is a public project, I think it's important.
Councillor Kassar.
Thanks, Chair. And just to build on that, just a couple of comments on why I seconded it, why I would support this. It's a very unique project because the city owns the land. And generally, we have very limited ability on what can actually be built because we don't own the land outside of zoning and OPA and those kind of things. So this is unique. We all often get asked, I think, on what are you doing about housing? What is the city doing about housing? Well, we're doing a heck of a lot, but in the situation we're in, we should be doing as much as we can. So what I heard in the report and today from staff was, you know, we've extended or we've paused beyond the 18 months and we'll just wait for them to report back on market conditions. So I think it's on us as a committee and council as a whole to be pushing that a little bit as this motion is doing to say, don't want to just wait, want to actively explore options and see what's possible, because I think that's our duty and our obligation both to the city and the people who live here to push for as much housing as soon as possible. So based on what I've heard and the feedback from staff, it's within the guide rails of the contractual agreement, which also includes the ability I heard to terminate in the future. I'm not suggesting that should be the path, but that is written into the agreement. So I'm going to support this and I look forward to seeing if we can expedite housing on this location.
Thank you, Councillor Kassar. Mayor, if you take the chair, please, I have some questions and comments. Thank you. So just for clarity, right now, I believe you mentioned 3 and 6 are the only blocks that are even in conversation. So right now, this motion talks about discussion to review the entire project, every block in the project. That's the way I read it. So that to me is a big concern because I think it sends a message to our partner that, you know, made the market's a problem and you're not being able to meet those requirements. So we're going to look at the whole project. So that's a concern. Staff said they're already doing this work. I think for me, when we talk about looking at different options on this site, and staff can hopefully clarify this for me, we are a partner in this project to generate revenue. So I believe we own the land, and please stop me if, Chair, if I'm saying something that I believe is not public information, but we're landowners. We have to sell this land to the builder, and then they're going to pay us for the land at market value. And then we get a percentage above that from unit sales. Can someone confirm that for me? Can that be confirmed?
Through the chair, there is a, I'll call it a sharing mechanism on some of the profit, yes.
Okay, so the city's going to generate revenue from selling the land and from the builders selling units. We invested, I think over $100 million is set aside. I don't think we've invested that yet, but we're talking about investing over $100 million into this land because it needed remediation. It's on the waterfront. It's very complicated development. And the market's gone in the tank, and 5 days after the deadline expired on 2 of 9 blocks, we're going to go and say, let's have discussions to change the use of the land and possibly go to affordable housing. I agree with Councillor Crutch, Councillor Cassar, and the mayor about affordable housing, how well of a job the Housing Secretariat, City of Hamilton Housing, all these groups have done to build affordable housing around Hamilton in places that, you know, whether we've had vacant parking lots or vacant land that the city owns. I just don't know that this is the same thing. It's not a vacant parking lot that's been sitting there that we've been selling for $15 day parking. We're talking about $100 million piece of property on the water that we have to recoup that money. And I think the only way we can recoup that money is to have this sort of investment and partnership with Waterfront Shores. My other concern about this motion is in regards to our relationship with Waterfront Shores. We're expecting our staff to continue to work with them. We're expecting our staff to have a good relationship. I find this would be difficult if I was sitting on the other side with my partner telling me, listen, yeah, you know, we get the market's bad, but we think we can look at other ways to get housing built here as soon as possible on all the blocks, even though only 2 blocks are in question. So my difficulty around it's been 5 days since we've hit our 18-month deadline. October 30th, I believe, is what staff said. So it's been 5 days. You provided us an update. The market conditions are very clear to everybody what they are. I don't know. I don't know why we would ask this of our partner right now. I think it sours the relationship. It's talking about all the blocks, and none of the blocks are in question besides 2, which just alone, the fact that we're going to review blocks that are currently under contractual agreements with no expiry on them, I think is problematic. I think it sends a bad message. So if the developer in the city wanted to build housing here and the market was able to sustain that building, I would assume there'd be building going on there because it benefits the developer, or sorry, it benefits the builder and it benefits the developer, which is the city of Hamilton. And I think the minute that it makes sense, there's going to be building going on at the waterfront. So I can't support this today because I think it just sends the wrong message. I get the spirit of it, and I think staff said that they're doing that already. So I would encourage staff to continue to have those conversations. If something goes sour, we see a problem, then I think bring back that information to us or to GI, wherever it needs to go, and we can have that conversation. But this project's laid out till I think 2038. So yeah, the market's slow now, but if the market catches fire, that schedule that is delayed currently can also be sped up if there's a need for housing and people are willing to buy that housing. So those are my reasons that I'm not going to support the motion, and I'll take the chair back, Mayor. Thank you. Councillor Crutch for a second time.
Yeah, those make sense. Staff are already having these conversations though, so the message is being sent. Whether we send it, they send it, doesn't really matter. This report is just coming back to ask for us to have the information here. And we're talking about the whole project today. We have been talking about the whole project today. We're talking about having semi-annual check-in dates for years to come. This is not going to be solved tomorrow. No one has the ability to look into a crystal ball also and say, oh, well, I know what the market's going to do tomorrow, or it's going to do the next day, or it's going to do the next day. So we don't have that predictability. I think getting a report back from our staff about what other options exist in conversation with Waterfront Shores, and I hope they're not so thin-skinned that a conversation is going to derail them from the entire project. I mean, I've certainly seen that in the development community before, but I've talked to these folks and I don't think they seem that way. And again, we're already having these very practical conversations with them. They know what's happening in the marketplace. They understand what the realities are. So I don't understand why anyone would think that this is going to have them, feel negatively. Again, staff have said they're already having these conversations with them. This is just about getting a report back here. So I'm not sure why there's resistance to getting a report back about this. It's a significant public issue. People are talking about it, especially in Ward 2. The community I represent regularly, wanting to get more information and updates. This just allows us to have that formal update back with all the options on the table so we know what's up. But everyone's vote is their own.
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor Cassar, Mayor. Anything further? Go ahead.
Thanks very much. Just in terms of the kind of regular updates that we get, the last meeting was about a year ago, right? Am I correct? And we're changing that to a more frequent report back or a more frequent meeting schedule? Is that what I think the councillor just said, that we're going to a semi-annual schedule? Is that the case?
Through the chair, what I was referring to at that point was that was the required minimum reporting with, or communication with Waterfront Shores, which we would exceed that. So I was not referring to committee members, the committee meetings themselves. But yes, we would be working with clerks to set up holds for next year's West Harbour Development Subcommittee meetings.
So then it seems to me that because the pieces are changing kind of as we live and breathe, right? The forces are that none of us have control over are creating opportunities in some ways and challenges in other ways. And maybe rather than, this is not news to anybody, rather than us interfering in as governors, interfering in the operations of what staff are expected to do in their professional roles, we instead look to a semi-annual meeting, which then gives us more frequent understanding of how conversations are going with the partner, thereby avoiding any perception that might be problematic, but still giving us the opportunity to get the feedback that you're getting in terms of the conversation that the partner is having with staff. And so I try to find compromise. I would suggest that a good compromise would be to simply move to a more frequent meeting schedule for report back to this subcommittee in order to keep us updated on ongoing forces that are impacting this this particular development. And so I would put that on the table, Chair, afterwards, depending on how this motion goes, if it's required, or if not, it can be just done administratively. Our clerk of our committee is saying that it can be done just administratively.
Typically, we try to schedule, through the chair, legislative coordinator Tamara Bates. Typically, we do try to schedule quarterly meetings of this committee. Some of those do get canceled because there's nothing ready, but we can certainly do that in 2026.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor. I have Councillor Crush for a third time, please.
The statement was made that rather than interfere in operations, which suggests that that's the intention here. It's not. The staff have already said that they're reporting, they're doing this work. There's no interfering. Staff are already doing the work. I'm asking, literally, the motion will have us have a meeting in Q2 2026 to get the report back. It's exactly what was just uttered out loud, is exactly the outcome here. It's just going to be that the work that staff's doing will be put in a report in writing and presented in public, instead of it just being a check-in with folks and not being reported in public. I don't know why anyone would object to transparency. There's no meddling or any interference from governors and operations. Staff are already doing this work, which they've said.
Okay. Any other speakers? No? Electronic vote, clerk? Okay, so we have the motion on the table. We're going to vote electronically, and then after that motion, we also have the report that we'll need to vote on. And we'll just give us couple seconds to get the vote up. It is the first vote, so it does take a bit of time. We may have put the robot to sleep, so bear with us. The vote is up. That vote is a 2-2 tie, which is defeated. We're back on the report. It has not been amended. Do we need electronic or show of hands?
We've already received the report, Mr.
We're
Chair,
good?
so we're going to go on to the rest of the agenda.
I don't believe there is anything left on the agenda. So we're going to move to adjournment. No further business. 11:04 a.m. The West Harbour Development Subcommittee meeting is adjourned. Thanks, everyone.